Well, good morning to episode 27 of the Electric Bison. Looks like we're going to have sunshine this morning in beautiful Montana. It's just a few minutes after 8 p.m., but it looks like we'll have a pretty good day for solar energy. I'd like to thank you for coming back to see what I have to say about some of this stuff. I think it's important. The reason that we got solar panels goes back to the attacks of 9/11. We started processing it then, really. Before that time, I was aware of all the mathematical computations about return on investment, payback, all that kind of stuff, because I'd been a public service commissioner for 12 years, and I was aware of how you're supposed to do it. But what we did after 9/11 is we started really thinking how we could stop being part of the problem that causes us to have to send our military forces to the Middle East. And by 2005, we'd lost a friend, the son of a friend who was a smoke jumper, Mike McKinnon, Captain Mike McKinnon, lost him in Baghdad. And then by 2007, we'd lost the son of another friend, Travis Adkins. He received the Medal of Honor for being killed, but he was still dead. And we really felt that we needed to do something, do our part to support our troops by not putting them in harm's way just because we wanted to use too much energy or an unnecessary amount of energy, really. So we really put some thought into it. So in the November of 2007, which is 17 years ago now, we came home with some money in our pocket and decided, instead of buying a second automobile or a truck probably, or an all-wheel drive of some kind, that we would instead use the money we had to pay cash for a solar electric power system. And our thinking at the time was that I would do more walking, which I have done. It's been really good for me. And we would figure out how to use the one car that we have. And so we didn't use the old payback calculations for solar. It just makes sense that you buy a solar system for your house, you don't have depreciation on it right away. It actually adds to the value of your house. And whereas you drive a car off a car lot, you start losing money right away. So that's kind of how we got into it. And then we worked with the solar equipment company. It was in San Francisco, and we had them drop ship everything that we needed. And we had the advice of electric engineer, and we had shipped here a system that we could put in one place to track the sun, because the Solar Atlas put out by the National Renewable Energy Labs, it showed us how much a flat plate could collect a square meter. Right here, our zip code, how much a collector that has two tilts, where you tilt it more steeply in the wintertime and less so in the summertime, how much that collects per square meter, and then how much you could collect if you had it on 3 axes, where you had the flat plates, you had the tilt, and then you could track it across the day. And it's quite a bit more when you can track it, and it seemed to justify also purchasing a tracker. And it was really helpful for us later when we found out that the tracker that we purchased, which is made in New Mexico, could withstand 120 mile an hour winds, because when we put these up on a steel pole, 21 feet in the air, at night we could lay in bed, and it's like being on a ship. You could hear the wind blowing the mast on the ship, and it has suspension, and it's pretty cool. But anyhow, we put that all together. It cost us about $21,000 before any tax benefits. We didn't do it for the tax benefits. And then, as it turned out, over the years that we've had it, turned out to be a really good investment, because that was 2007 was just before that big economic problem we had here with the housing crisis in 2008 and the years after, where the interest rates were so low on your bank accounts and so forth, CDs. And we actually made some pretty good return on the money we put into this, just kind of accidentally. The average use of electricity we had at that time was 154 kilowatt hours a month. That's what we basically used, and we sized the system to be able to give us that amount of energy summer and winter. and we did it to be off the grid. So we got some first-class batteries. You know, we had a 48-volt system, you know, 8 6-volt deep cycle batteries, and that's kind of what we went into it for. And we were off the electric system for a year, for a little more than a year. But then what we realized, we were making so much extra electricity in the summer months. You know, we'd get 16 kilowatt hours a day, easy, and we weren't using that, and it was just kind of going like, where's it going? Into the ground? And so we thought we better try to save it. Even if we don't get to use it, all of it, we should try to put it out on the grid. So we agreed to a net meter with the utility after about a year and a half, and that's what we have now. We've had a net meter for about 16 years. And then over that period of time, the inverter that we used, we have an inverter to go the AC/DC business, and then you have a converter to put the power into your batteries. Our inverter went out on us about 4 years ago. That was quite a wake up, because we were so used to going downtown and finding out the lights had been out in our town and we didn't have the problem. But suddenly one night we didn't have any lights, and that was because our inverter went out, and I'm not sure why it did, but we got another one real fast and I replaced it. And since I replaced that inverter, we've not been able to put power onto the utility grid because there's something I haven't done right. It's between the inverter and the converter. And so I'm going to go back to work on that, because just the other day I went down and checked, and we actually have bought 876 kilowatt hours from the utility, and our net meter has gone over the top, and it's positive. And that bothers me. That's just because I'm lazy and haven't made it a priority. So I want to spend the next couple of meetings of this Electric Bison podcast talking about our system. And, you know, I've got some experience with it and telling you about it, telling what I think we need to do to tune it up. Because going back to what I said yesterday, it's it's still about not wanting to contribute to the wasteful use of oil, but it's also, I feel like our electricity system is now moving to a place that we can't rely on it. I know our people that run our Northwest Energy here in Montana and our Public Service Commission, everybody is all gung-ho, you know, to make it the best and take care of business, but it's bigger than that. The electricity system in our country is much more complex, and the strains that I'm thinking that are going to be happening are beyond the control of utility executives or public service commissioners or even congressmen. And I have a feeling that our present political environment is not very susceptible to the kind of intense, detailed, subtle coordination that's required when you're dealing with electricity. Electricity, it moves at the speed of light, and the electricity system in our country is the single most complex system ever devised by man. It's a machine. And if people aren't talking to each other at every level and between levels, we're going to have problems. And now we have these huge uses for electricity that are just mind-boggling, for artificial intelligence, which we're all starting to use, and cryptocurrency particularly, but then all the other things that are being done to help respond to climate change. So that's why I've gone back now to relook at all this, and I want to start with our system, because I think the best thing for people to do, in my opinion, you know, it's just one guy talking, but is to make sure you have the electricity that you really need, because someday you may not have the system that you're used to. And we've been pretty well institutionalized to expect power to come from a central source, and I don't think that's a wise assumption any longer. So with that, I'll just show you real quickly. The sun comes up over here. This is pointing to the south and east, and there's a trace of sun will come up over those clouds in a minute. But then you'll see that the solar panels that are right behind me have already tilted toward that, ready to pick up the sun. They won't start getting watts for about another 20 minutes, and then they'll start tracking the sun over the course of the day. But as the sun comes up, it actually is like a frisbee. It goes across the sky in the winter months. It's really interesting to follow, to figure out where the sun is where you live. And it goes over, it'll stay above all this stuff for the most part, and then down, it'll drop behind those houses, 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. We got this system that tracks the sun mainly because there used to be a huge tree here on the other side of the house in the neighbor's yard. It was huge. It was a big fir tree. And in the 17 years, he cut it down. So we don't have that problem. But what happened is also in the 17 years is that nice house there got built, and good for the neighborhood and for the family that's in it. But it actually blocks out part of our sun when it's really low on the winter horizon. So that's what it looks like, and we'll talk tomorrow about our load.